Joining us now, another former national security advisor in the Trump White House, John Bolton. He's also a former U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, and he's the author of the best-selling book, The Room Where It Happened, a White House memoir. Ambassador Bolton, thank you so much for joining us. Give us your reaction to the details of this Oval Office meeting, this talk, hard to believe, here in the United States of America, talk of martial law being imposed to try to overturn a democratically held election. Talk that was promoted by one of your predecessors, one of the president's former national security advisors, Michael Flynn.
Yeah, well, at least a few national security advisors have read the Constitution. Look, this is appalling. There's no other way to describe it. It's unbelievable, almost certainly completely without precedent. But I think it's important to understand this is just another day at the office at the Oval. This is just another day at the office. There's a theory out there, I know, that Trump is getting worse as January the 20th approaches. No, he's not. It's the same behavior repeated over and over again. Let's take the idea of putting military capabilities into the swing states and running the election again. Look, there's a difference between incompetence and malevolence, and in Trump's case, this is incompetence. He's unfit for the job. I don't think he's ever read the Constitution. If he has, he clearly doesn't understand it, and if he did understand it at one point, he's forgotten it. That's why the burden again and again falls on senior advisors to push him back and rein in. And I would just suggest, since there are a lot of members of Congress up on the Hill, particularly Republicans, this would be a good night to talk about the Constitution and why the president can't invoke martial law.
If you had been in the Oval Office and heard something like that, going ahead and trying to impose martial law to overturn the results of a democratically held election that Biden won, by the way, by more than 7 million votes, how would you have reacted in the Oval Office in a meeting like that?
Well, I think you have to tell him that it's unconstitutional to even think along those lines. I did have conversations with him when he suggested repeatedly he wanted John Kerry prosecuted for violating the Logan Act by interfering in our dealings with Iran. This is ironic, given Mike Flynn was in there. He was threatened with prosecution under the Logan Act. It's not easy for those who actually know how the Constitution works, what the normal rules are here, but that's what they need to do, and apparently at least some of them have been doing it.
I want to turn to this other major story coming out of the White House right now, Ambassador. The president actually, hard to believe, contradicting his own Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, on the massive hacking of U.S. government agencies still thought to be underway even as we speak. The president today baselessly suggested that China could be involved, and he tweeted that just one day after the Secretary of State, Pompeo, made clear what so many other experts in the U.S. intelligence community agree on, that Russia is the prime suspect. That's what he said. The view is shared by the acting Senate Intelligence Committee Chairman, Senator Marco Rubio. Why is the president refusing to call out Russia for this latest attack? Everybody except him believes it was Russia. He's suggesting it was China.
Yeah. Well, let me just say first, if I might, this attack, the full extent of which we don't know and may not know for some time, is a huge event. It's a huge event. It didn't just happen this week. It didn't just begin in March of this year. It didn't even begin a year or two ago. This is a reflection of decades of misapprehension of what cyberspace is. And it should tell us right now, if we haven't appreciated before, cyberspace is not a benign place. Cyberspace is a warfighting domain. And we are losing to the Russians at least, and maybe others. So here we have Donald Trump. As I say, it's just another day at the Oval Office, contradicting the Secretary of State. Nothing new there, that's for sure. Plenty of us have been contradicted by him. Why does he continue to find no fault with Russia? I think it goes back to his view that if he acknowledges that Russia does anything malign in the United States, it relates back to and undercuts the legitimacy of his election in 2016. It has been explained to him countless times that that chain of logic is wrong, and that in fact it would strengthen his hand if he acknowledged the reality that Russia messed with our electoral system in 2016. In my view, it was an act of war against the Constitution, which they continue to do. If he acknowledged it and really helped the rest of the government take the strong steps against Russia that we were trying to take, it would reinforce in people's minds that he understood the threat that Russia posed and that it had nothing to do with his election in 2016. But he's never accepted that.
You saw that. You were an eyewitness to that when you were in the White House, in the Oval Office with him in the Situation Room. Let's say he would go into the White House Situation Room. You were there when he refused to say anything negative at all about Putin or Russia?
Yeah, look, it is hard to understand. I fully acknowledge it. I think part of it is he wants to be a big guy like these other big guys, Putin, Erdogan, Xi Jinping, Kim Jong-un. It's much more fun to be a big guy than be a regularly elected president. But I want to say this, for all those who say he must be in Moscow's pay, maybe he is. Provide some evidence. Otherwise, you're doing the same thing as Donald Trump himself, saying the election was stolen. As soon as there's evidence, people can consider it. There's still no evidence he's in Moscow's pay, and it doesn't contribute to the accurate critique of Donald Trump when people keep saying that.
Ambassador Bolton, thanks as usual for joining us.